Um, so let me go ahead and share the first PowerPoint here. Does everyone see it okay? Yeah, could someone unmute themselves and let me know if they can see the PowerPoint okay?
Yes, we can.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm on one monitor right now. I got a cable coming, so I'll be able to hook up another monitor and actually see Teams in a different window. But for now, just today, gonna have to do this a little bit differently. But yeah, welcome to class. It's certainly good to see everyone here today. This is a very large summer section. I've taught summer sections in the past, and I think my second largest was 20 students, and this one had about 26 people registered. And that's really good. There is one downside to it, though. If you guys can believe it or not, I actually, they gave me the smallest room I'd ever taught in. The joke is that I'm, of course, in my apartment, so. Yeah, but we're going to make the best of what we have and certainly go from there. So we'll just kind of jump into this. So yeah, welcome to class. It's certainly good to see all of you. Of course, this is definitely going to be taught in the summer. This is going to be summer 2, so we'll meet every Monday through Friday, about 1 p.m. Put on the schedule to end at 2:30 p.m. I would say most days we won't have to meet until 2:30 p.m. But certainly we could on some days meet until 2:30 p.m. Originally, the course was scheduled to be until about, I think, from 3 to like 4:50. So I'd be glad you're not having to meet that long. So we will meet inside of Teams pretty much Monday through Friday. When I was planning out the semester, earlier in the spring, I was narrowing it down between using Teams or using TikTok, and I think I made the right choice. But in all seriousness, of course, if you're not able to make the lectures live, they will be posted to my YouTube channel. Unfortunately, due to how the recording inside of Teams works, it may be a little delay in terms of the time that I'm able to get the recording sent to me and then the time I'm able to upload it to YouTube. It could be like probably 6 hours, hopefully not a full day, but unfortunately there is some delay there. But you will still be able to view all the material. That won't be a problem. So yeah, let me know if there's any questions. Probably have to unmute your mic and ask because, like I said, I can't really see the chat right now. But certainly feel free to do so. So here's the things I have to go over. Honor code, don't cheat. It's pretty difficult to cheat in here because everything's open book, open note. So I don't even know how you could cheat, but don't find out. Let's just keep it simple. We're just not going to cheat. You can use any resources you'd like. I believe that the honor code prohibits you from using someone else on assignments. So don't do that. That wouldn't be good. Disabilities. We have disability support services. I believe they're over in Montgomery Hall. Someone double check me on that. They're in Montgomery Hall, aren't they? Anyone know where they are? I'm pretty sure. Anyway, it's the one that's behind McCool, and it's beside not Fresh. What's that cafeteria that looks like a cathedral on campus? It's Montgomery Hall, and no. I don't know, but they're online also. So just if you need any assistance with that, yeah, they have information online. You don't need to listen to my ramblings about that. Title IX. Please don't sexually harass anyone in here. That would cause some problems. I don't want to deal with problems. I'm sure that no one else wants to deal with any problems either. So we won't deal with any of that. This is my favorite thing I talk about is campus safety. So if you're a victim of a crime or you witness a crime, make sure you contact campus police. Even though we're not even meeting on campus, I still have to tell you that. It is what it is. But like I say, if you get bored at night sometime, you want to get some good, some good material to kind of help you fall asleep. I got a syllabus. The last page of it's got some good stuff to help you fall asleep. Let's talk a little bit about me. So my name, of course, is Andrew Miller. I'm going to be pretty simple this semester. If you're referring to me in the class and you want to say my name, I ask that you refer to me as Mr. Miller. I'm not going to correct you if you refer to me as Andrew, but just keep things a little formal. I like to keep things lighthearted, but also like to keep things a little formal. Same thing goes with email. Please address me as Mr. Miller. I've never corrected anyone if they didn't, but it just is best practice too. A little bit about me. I like tennis. I play a lot of tennis. Not so much anymore, but I still get out there a couple times a month. And definitely a couple times a week I go jog down at North Farm. A couple miles of that keeps me keeps me in shape, I guess. And as for research, I really do a lot of business analytic research, looking at firm performance, specifically looking at IT firm performance, and looking at IT spending and how that relates. So, since we're going to be in here, I would like to kind of switch it over and have each of you say something about yourselves. So let me see if I can switch screens here. Okay. So we got 11 people here. Let's start with you, Kyle. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Or anyone who wants to speak, I guess. Yeah, we hear you now.
Okay. My name's Kyle Bannon. I'm originally from the Atlanta, Georgia area, from a suburb town called Marietta. One interesting fact about me is I have my Eagle Scout, and I'm very proud of that.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So what's your major, Kyle?
I am a finance major with a concentration in risk management.
Okay, good stuff. We'll be covering a little bit of risk management. Definitely not as much as you'll cover in your program, of course, but hopefully you'll do pretty well in that section and all the sections.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Sydney, why don't you go next?
I'm Sydney Burden from Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Marketing major with integrated digital marketing concentration. I'm at the beach right now. That's interesting.
Having a good time, I hope.
Oh, yeah.
Good stuff. All right, Kelsey. Let's see. Someone want to go next, I guess?
Hi, my name is Jordan Reed. I'm from Franklin County, Mississippi. It's a small county in the southwest corner of the state, and my major is microbiology with a concentration in business administration.
Okay, good stuff. Let's see. Brandon, you want to go next?
Yeah, my name's Brandon Smith. I'm from Jackson, Mississippi. I actually live in a little suburb outside of Jackson, Mississippi called Richland. Not many people know of it, but I'm majoring in business administration. I'm specializing in insurance, marketing, and management.
Good stuff. Rachel, you want to go next?
Yeah, I can. My name is Rachel Van Horn. I'm from Winona, Mississippi. It's a small town about an hour from Starkville. My major is finance, and a little fact about me, I also play tennis, and I won state in high school, and I won state at Meridian Community College as well.
Well, congratulations. You're probably a lot better than I am at it. I just kind of play it casually with some friends every weekend or so, but Haley, you want to go next?
My name's Haley Williams, and I'm from Grenada, Mississippi, and my major is accounting.
Okay. Accounting's very important. Let's see. Cass, you want to go?
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
My name is Cass Ivy. Much like Kyle, I am an Eagle Scout. I'm from Starkville, Mississippi. My major is business information systems. And yeah, that's about it.
Well, hopefully you'll learn something in here. It's Definitely a lot more managerial focus than the other BIS classes, but it's still a good one. We cover a lot of different material. We'll talk about what we're going to cover a little later. But let's see here. Brittany, have you gone? Or Kiana? Or Kiana, I'm not sure. Okay. Anyone else haven't spoken, feel free to. I think some people might be having a little bit of issues with their mics, and that's okay. So yeah, it's just good to kind of see who's in the class with you all, and certainly that could be a good thing to know, I guess. So here's some more contact information for me. My office is officially in 313 room E in McCool Hall. Let's be real here, I'm probably not going to be there. So if you need me, you can certainly email me. That's probably going to be the best way to get a hold of me. But you could also stick around after I've stopped the recording. And if you have any quick questions or anything like that, you can always talk to me then after class. Another way to get information, this is kind of a sarcastic little thing I like to do. It's a little website here. It kind of goes through and shows how you can obtain information. So it's called Let Me Google That for you. And if you have a question like how to change a column size, you'd search for something like Word change column size. You'd Google it, and you click the Google button there, and it would do that for you. And I just remembered I'm sharing the application PowerPoint and not Word, so you didn't see any of it. But that's okay. It's still kind of humorous. So yeah, there's course mission statement, of course. Basically, it's just saying that we're going to cover a lot of things in information systems from a managerial perspective, and to be able to apply those concepts to business problems. That's what this course is all about. So some software you might find helpful. Really, you can use whatever you like. I don't say you have to use anything. You can't use stuff. That's not my style. Here's some note-taking applications, Evernote, OneNote. You can use whatever you want. I really don't care, to be honest with you. I do recommend you use something. It could be a physical notebook as well. I certainly like to take physical notes when I was a student. But, do it however you want. That's perfectly fine. I do recommend you take notes. We'll get to that in a minute. But, for file storage, you could certainly use Google Drive, OneDrive, Dropbox, anything you want. You could use iCloud as well. That's not listed here. Whatever works for you, I recommend it. Then you could also use Microsoft Office. And if you wanted to use Apple's iWork, you could do that as well. Just make sure to use use a format that's readable to the majority of people. So yeah, speaking of notes, this class is organized to where the PowerPoints are more of a business presentation. So with that said, they don't have every single word that you need to know on them. Instead, they have the bullet points. They have, topics to know. And then what's important about those topics is basically what I say about them. I know that sounds a little kind of like I'm full of myself or something, but no, that's really what a business presentation is about. It's about presenting information in an interesting way. And it wouldn't be that interesting if I simply was sitting in my office chair here and reading off the slides word for word. So it's really, business presentations are designed to be more conversational. They're designed to tell a more interesting story than maybe some other types of presentations. So having said that, I have in here saying that if I write something, it's probably pretty important. In this environment, I probably won't be writing a whole lot, just given the fact it's kind of difficult to write. But typically in a semester, I'd have a document camera. So I think what I'll do instead of writing is I'll scan in what I would normally do on a document camera and go through it step by step. I think that's the best approach than me trying to draw on a touchpad. Would not be very easy. And, most importantly, though, your notes, you can do whatever you like with them. In a regular semester, I would have everyone, completely optionally, of course, but I would suggest to everyone, find a couple classmates. I'd pause class right here and say, find a couple classmates and exchange contact information with them. And, if you're ever out one day, you've got the notes. That's not really going to be practical for right now because this is recorded. It'll be uploaded to YouTube later. So I don't really want you all to put all your contact information out there. But certainly later on in class, maybe you want to exchange your email, feel free to do so. I'll let you know when. It'll be after this in the next little quick lesson. Let's talk about exam material. That's a very important thing for any class. So right off the bat, these exams are going to be 20% of your grade apiece. So in total, there's 3 exams. They'll be 60% of your grade. I will be willing to drop the lowest of the first 2 exam grades if it benefits you, but not both of them. So let's say you get a 60 on the first exam, you get an 80 on the second exam, and you get 100 on the third exam. I'd be willing to replace the 60 with 100 that you got on the third exam. The third exam, of course, is cumulative. Having said that, let's say you get 100 on the first exam, you get an 80 on the second exam, and you get a 60 on the final. Be pretty unlikely, but let's just say you did. Then, you would, those would be your 3 grades. I'm not going to replace your 80 with a 60 if it doesn't benefit. I'm only going to do it if it benefits you. So that's not a problem at all. Basically, I would say about 80% of the material will be found pretty much verbatim from the book. But certainly everything that's on the exams is covered in lectures. So I'd recommend you attend the lectures live so you can ask questions if you want to. Speaking of that, anyone have any questions so far? Feel free to interrupt. Like I say, in the next couple days, I will have a second monitor behind me that I will just be able to see if you're typing away in chat. I'll be able to address it. But for now, feel free to unmute yourself and interrupt me. It's not a problem at all. But of course, 100% plus 80% is greater than 100%. So there's going to be some overlap between what's inside the book and what's inside the lecture. I think that's pretty common in a lecture environment. But certainly, I make the test questions. Most of my test questions are pretty good. I usually end up, dropping a couple questions and, in the form of doing a curve of some kind, just to make it fair. But yeah, typically, if you attend the lectures or if you watch them at your own pace, I know that some people like to watch the YouTube lectures because they can put it on 1.25 speed and they can skip past the stuff they're already pretty confident that they know. And other people told me that they like that they could pause and they could take more detailed notes. So I really don't care how you do it. Just make sure that you do what you need to, because ultimately you are responsible for learning the content in the course one way or another. So yeah, like I say, I would normally have you all exchange contact information. We'll just do that after I stop the recording for today. So Canvas, of course, is going to have most of the stuff inside of it. If anyone's having any issues accessing Canvas, let me know. It should be up there, though. So you should have access to the syllabus, the schedule, which has stuff like the book quiz assignments, which are all going to be due on the respective review days. So, for example, we'll have Unit 1 review day. I believe it's Tuesday. I don't have the schedule in front of me. We'll pull it up in a minute. It's not a big deal. But that's pretty much how we'll do it. We'll have the book quiz due that day. So for each chapter, or for each Unit 1 chapter, the quizzes will all be due on the same day. It's going to be the review day at midnight. Does that make sense to everyone? Let me know if it doesn't. But also, you can also see the deadlines inside of Canvas. I highly recommend you knock them all out early. They really don't take a long time to do. There are 10 matching questions per chapter. You could easily go to Quizlet and find them really easily. It's open book, open note. That's perfectly okay. You could also look inside the book. I don't actually have the book in front of me right now, but if I did, I would certainly show you that, at the end of each chapter, there's basically a glossary of terms. And you can certainly use that as well. I don't care how you do it. Having said that, please make sure that you do them on time. I don't accept them late. I'm a little bit of a stickler for due dates, I suppose. But yeah, it's not usually an issue. They're really easy. You can knock them out right now if you want. You can knock them out after class. It's really up to you. So, of course, all grades are going to be inside of Canvas as well. I know that inside of Teams, they have a spot for, all these assignments. I'm not going to use any of that. Basically, Teams is just for the lecture. And I'm not even sure you could watch a replay of it inside of Teams. So it's really just for a lecture if you wanted to meet or something like that. And, of course, PowerPoint files and really any file for the course is going to be set in Canvas. So, yeah, Let me know if there's any questions about Canvas. But apart from that, yeah, so we just talked about the online quiz grades a little bit. Yeah, they're 15% of your grade overall. I'll drop the lowest one, but I'll do that at the end of the semester. So basically, on the applicable review day at 11:59 p.m., I hope you've submitted them because no late work is accepted. Let's talk a little bit about participation in group assignments. These are nothing to worry about. Basically, what will happen is every Friday, probably more like a Wednesday or a Tuesday, I'll send out an email with a timely article about something about what we're talking about in class that relates to, what's going on in the world. And we'll have a discussion about it. You don't have to attend it live. If you attend it live, all you have to do is attend and participate. But if you're unable to attend it live, I totally get it. You'll probably just write like a paragraph or two, nothing major, just to kind of show that you read it and that you thought about it and stuff like that. So it's pretty much a participation grade, really straightforward. I'll send out more information about that. Exams, like I say, they're 60% of course grade. We already talked about these a little bit. Don't cheat on them. I'm not even sure how you could cheat on them, but don't. They're open book, open note. So in terms of that, you really don't have much room to cheat. I guess the only way you could cheat is to have someone else take them. Please don't do that. It's just not good to do. And that could get you in a lot of trouble. So yeah, but beyond that, you'll have enough time to look up some of the questions. I'll probably give you just over a minute per question, maybe like a minute 10 seconds or like a minute 15 seconds per question on average. So you'll have time to look up some of the questions, but you won't have time to look up 100% of the test. So it's going to be a lot different than the quizzes. The quizzes, you have infinite amount of time. They're literally verbatim from the textbook. There's no changes. You can find them on Quizlet. You probably can't do that with the textbook or the You probably can't do that with the exams questions because, like I said, these are not from a test bank. I come up with them. Some of them you'll be solving problems. Some of them you'll be applying the concepts from class. These are really more about the application of the material to business problems. So I'll definitely give you what I consider to be the hardest question on the first exam. I'll definitely tell you what that's going to be when we get a little closer to time, probably during the review day. And I'll give you the answer for it too. Just kind of let you all see how the test will be formatted. But they're nothing to worry about. I usually end up curving the stuff. Last semester we changed to online. I didn't think I was going to end up curving anything, but it turns out that, if you'll believe it, the averages actually went down when we switched to online, and that really kind of shocked me. So I ended up adjusting the grades a little bit on that. Now everyone was happy. There was no complaints or anything, but I just thought that was kind of interesting. Like, you think when you switch from a proctored environment to one where you basically, you go in and you can use anything you want, the grades went down. So I don't think that's going to happen in a summer section. In a summer section, we'll be in here every day focusing on the material. Certainly it's going to be a relaxed environment. I'm going to be pretty relaxed. Hopefully you all are going to be relaxed as well. And it'll just be a good semester. So here's a grade formula to calculate your grade. So basically what you do for the quizzes, you take the average of your quiz grades. Now, it's not going to be quite that simple because I am going to drop your lowest quiz grade. So let's say you had 12 100s and you had 1 0. Your average is still going to be 100 for quizzes because I'm not going to factor in your lowest quiz grade. Let's say you had 13 100s. Your average is still going to be 100. So it's not going to go above 100. I'm just going to drop the lowest one. Because, could be a case in which something happens with one and you're not satisfied with the grade. But like I said, there's really no reason to not be. There's no time limit. You only get one attempt, so don't mess them up. But there's no time limit. They're open book, open note. Believe it or not, that's actually my lowest grade usually. When I look at the grades, that's usually the one that people do the worst on is the quizzes. I don't understand it. But you don't have to buy any access codes or anything like that. They're just inside of Canvas, so no additional cost. And yeah, basically I do that because I looked at what the access codes for the book actually have, and basically it's just a bunch of quizzes, And why should you pay $60 or $100 or sometimes even $150 to take a quiz? It just didn't seem to make sense to me, so you don't have to do that. Participation. As long as you do all the stuff, you get 100. You get a 0 if you don't, so make sure you participate. And like I say, it's either going to be you attend the session live and you kind of say something, or it's going to be you submit just 1 or 2 paragraphs, nothing major, just your opinion on something. You don't have to cite anything or anything like that. So it's just shouldn't take you more than, I'd say, 10, 20 minutes to write up your opinion, or however long the discussion goes. So I'm not trying to, cause a lot of problems for anyone or anything like that. So exams, basically, it's just going to be the average of your exams. However, I want to drop the lowest exam between exam 1 or exam 2, like I talked about. And then for the final grade, of course, you just take your quiz average, multiply it by 0.15 for 15%. Participation grade, multiply it by 0.25 because it's 25%. And exams, multiply it by 0.60. And, you can add in any course bonus points you get. Let's talk about those briefly. Throughout the semester, if I make any mistake on grading something, if I make a mistake on something in my slides, if I make a mistake on a question, anything like that, let me know. And I don't like to make mistakes. I do make mistakes. I'm not saying I don't. I like to avoid it. I like to minimize them. And also, I want people to let me know if I make a mistake. So what I do is I say, if you catch me making a mistake, I'll A, correct it, and B, I will give you 1 point on your final grade. So certainly feel free to email me. Please be respectful, of course, but never had an issue with that. Because like I say, I really want to know if I'm making mistakes. That's not a good thing for me to do. Some people are really good at finding mistakes, and they'll get 3 or 4 bonus points for a semester. And I think, man, I must have really not done well that semester, but I did fine that semester. Don't worry. Just a little joke there. So yeah, grade distributions. I round at the 0.5 level, and I round at the 1,000th as well. So 89.500 is an A, 89.499 is a B. It's pretty straightforward, pretty typical. And I do hold to that, by the way. So disappoints some people if they're close to the grade, but you have to have a cutoff somewhere, and this is where it is. So other policies, please be respectful. We're all, it's good to be respectful, I think. During lectures, I always ask that you don't distract others. But having said that, I do want to encourage you, if you have a question, to ask it. Like I say, for now, just, unmute your mic and say it. Feel free to interrupt me. I'm not going to be upset. But otherwise, once I get the second monitor going, you can just type it in chat. I'll address it. And if I don't address it, just unmute your mic or whatever. It's perfectly fine. And that's the thing. It's really great to wear headphones during any sort of web call to avoid any feedback, because, if I'm speaking and there's background noise on my end, then you're speaking and there's background noise on your end, if we're both using speakers, it's just going to go back and forth and get louder and louder, and it's not going to be a good experience for anyone. So that's why I do require headphones. I guess if you're not going to mute your mic, I don't really care if you're wearing headphones. I'm not going to, check and see if you're wearing headphones or anything too crazy. But it's just best practice to wear headphones. Yeah, and like I say, if you're not speaking, I do ask that you keep your mic muted, just so there's no, background noises or anything like that. Any questions so far about course policies or anything like that? Any questions? Well, I guess they're pretty straightforward. Not really a whole lot there, but like I say, certainly feel free if you have any questions. If you think of anything later in the lecture, feel free to interrupt me. Like I say, with interruptions, it's bound to happen that there's going to be a slight delay in things. So if you ask a question and, it might take a half second or a second for it to get to me, basically, before I hear it. And then, for me to respond, there might be another delay. It was really kind of funny this past semester. Over spring, I was teaching this in a lecture environment, and I was trying out the different platforms. I tried out Teams, I tried out WebEx, I tried out YouTube as well. Ended up going with YouTube because, what I found was that with YouTube, there's going to be a pretty long delay before the time that I say something and you actually hear. It's like 10 or 15 seconds. But the good thing was that, there wasn't the possibility for someone to, cause any sort of interruptions to the lecture. But with a smaller class, I think it makes a lot more sense. That was a class of 210 people. This is a class of 26. So it just makes a lot more sense to have a more interactive platform to go with. So the textbook, I believe I sent out some information about this. I'm curious. Let me know who got it cheapest. I got mine for free, of course, because I'm not going to pay for a textbook. That's another story. But no, I mean, seriously. I mean, of course, the publisher sends out textbooks for free to me. So that's what I'm talking about, of course. But yeah, I'm curious to know who got it cheapest. If they bought it, you know, like say any edition, I would say 5th and up. Maybe 4th would be okay. I've never looked at the 4th edition. You know, it'd be kind of cool. I think I saw it on eBay for like, I want to say like $5 or so, maybe $6. I'm not sure. But yeah, I mean, they always make the joke about, you know, in an economics class, you know, part of your grade should be based on how much you pay for the textbook. If you're paying too much for the textbook, maybe your grades should suffer a little. Now, I wouldn't do that, of course, but that's just a little joke I've heard. Yeah, so like I said, any edition works. One thing I will say, though, is that you're responsible for material. So the 7th edition is the one that I'll be going by. The 6th is basically identical. The 8th, I believe, is basically identical as well. They sent me electronic copy of it. I looked through it, didn't see any major differences. Certainly not in the organization of the chapters. I mean, there's some stuff that's updated. For example, the definition of broadband in the 6th edition is the old FCC definition, whereas the 7th edition has the current definition, and I'm sure the 8th edition does as well. But yeah, this is by R. Kelly Rayner and Brad Prince. So I guess the book is written by R. Kelly and Prince. Got to be very careful of jokes about that. But yeah, you can make whatever jokes you like there. Actually, R. Kelly Rayner, he's an excellent professor. He's down at Auburn. And Brad Prince, I'm not sure where he is. But yeah, there's a lot of good people. I do know Kelly Rayner pretty well. He goes by Kelly, so yeah. Like I said, there is no need for access codes. Buy the book used. Well, let me rephrase it. However you want to purchase the book, have to be very careful. Because officially, you know, per contract and all that, I'm not supposed to recommend anything but the bookstore. But you know, so in conclusion, let's go ahead and have a great semester. You know, my goal is for everyone to be successful. Whatever that success looks like, maybe a little different, but certainly what I would like for you all to have by the end of the semester is a mindset in which you think about how information systems can be applied to business problems. That's really what this course is all about, is taking business problems and applying technology to solve them in a cost-effective manner. So we'll have lots of different problems throughout the semester, and we're going to talk about how information systems plays a role in them. And really, ultimately, I want you to be kind of familiar with the themes of management information systems. But don't think of this like an accounting class where you're supposed to, you know, be real familiar with, you know, doing bookkeeping or anything like that. Now, this is really about taking this course from a managerial perspective and applying it to business problems. Any questions so far? Did I go too fast there or too slow? Let me know. Share the conversation. Yeah, I don't see any chat, so that's good. Well, I don't know if it's good, but I'm not missing anything, so that's good. All right, I'm going to now share the other chapter here. Okay, it's going to be just a moment. Okay, so this is the email etiquette chapter. If you need to take a quick break, feel free to do so. I can come back later. But basically, I always start off the semester by talking about email etiquette. Email etiquette is extremely important. It's something that, you know, if you're in a business environment, you're going to be using email a lot. So it's a good thing to be familiar with how to send and receive email. So at the basic level, you click send, but it's a little more complicated than that, of course. You know, just the various etiquette. I went and played golf one time, and I didn't do real great. But the main thing I was concerned with was not making a fool of myself, you know, because there's a lot of etiquette. Well, email is kind of the same way. You know, I think I ended up shooting like over 109 holes, but that's neither here nor there. I'm not a golfer, as you can tell by my score. But anyway, so yeah, email etiquette, there's a lot of unspoken rules, a lot of things that you wouldn't put inside of an email. And we're going to talk about those a little bit. So, you know, just kind of go over what we're talking about today. We're talking about when you would send an email, what you would put inside of an email, you know, how you'd format an email, what your email should look like, basically, and when you shouldn't send an email. There's a lot of times which sending an email does not make sense. So let's jump right into it. We're going to skip this. So there's a quick video. Normally I would play the video. It's a corny little video. I have it in here because I want to look better, but I don't need to look better. I'm kidding about both of those things. But I don't want to get a copyright strike when I upload this to YouTube later. So we're just going to kind of skip through this a little bit and get to the email right here. And kind of read through this. So it says, I be so mixed up, teach. This thing is confusing. I need some help. Please get back with me soon. Anyone want to unmute their mic and tell me if this is a good email? Anyone?
I'll be brave. That doesn't sound like a proper email at all.
And why do you say that, Kyle?
So I learned kind of in literature classes in English, basically on how you use a lot of grammatical rules in forming an email. It doesn't matter if that's in business or if you're in more of the scientific fields, whether that be like chemical engineering or biological engineering or biologist or anything like that. It's just common courtesy to use proper language and not slang. There's a lot of slang, and it's very, very keen that you remember that when writing emails, because slang usually is different with different generations, and that's why someone's not going to understand something. Like someone who's 65 may not understand what, for example, the phrase lit means or something like that. So it's something to remember, because in a working context, there's different generations, different age groups.
Yeah, I would probably understand what the word lit means, but certainly not everyone would. I like to think I'm pretty cool. Not the coolest, but not that lame either. So yeah, those are great points, though. Someone else want to talk about the content of it? You know, is this something that an instructor could look at and see, this is what they're confused with? You know, is the content okay in this? Someone take a stab at that. And pay close attention when you're looking at this and say, this thing is so confusing. That's not very descriptive. What thing? You know, I don't know what thing. I'm assuming you all don't know what thing either. So, you know, things like that. Is the content clear inside of this email? Anyone want to take a stab at that and see if the content's clear to you all?
I'll come back in. Using word thing and not really describing what the issue is from that just kind of eliminates what's specified. So not really.
Yeah, I agree. It's a very confusing email. You know, there's grammatical issues like you mentioned. And, you know, the whole subject of the email, I'm not sure what thing they're talking about. I'm not sure how they're confused. You know, they just say that the thing is confusing. They need some help, but they don't say help with what. You know, in other words, it's very confusing. It really blows my mind that that they didn't use a basic spell check on this. It's kind of humorous, but yeah, it's got some corny music if you want to watch it on your own time at some point. But it's just kind of funny to watch. So then they send a new email to their, I'm assuming, instructor. Oh, wait, this is the instructor getting the email. Sorry, guys. So they go to the writing center for help with the email, and then they send this email. So let's see here. Can I call on someone? Would you all be too mad if I called on someone? Well, you don't have to answer, I guess, but I'm not going to call on anyone yet. But I want someone to take a stab at this and see if this email is, what you all think of this email. So the email says, hey, I have no idea what I am doing on this midterm essay. I'm confused. Help. Well, I'll take my stab at it. I guess, you know, it can be kind of awkward to participate. I get that, you know, that's reasonable. So I'll just take a stab at it. You know, this is a lot less grammatically problematic. It still has some grammatical issues in it. But by and large, this is an email that, it's at least somewhat clear as to what the subject is, the midterm essay. So last time they said the thing. This time they're at least saying the midterm essay. So, from that perspective, it is better. But they just say they're confused with it. They don't see, what's the issue with it. Are they confused about what it's asking for? Are they confused with what they should write about? Are they confused with how to write? Are they confused with how to research? There's a lot of things you can be confused with on an essay. And from that perspective, it can be very difficult to figure out where exactly the confusion lies. So it's still not a great email. Also starting an email off with, hey, that's a little bit too informal, probably, I would say, for email to an instructor. Again, it's not something I would personally correct, but it is something that kind of, I think, in my opinion, would be a little too informal. Anyone disagree with that? Certainly feel free if you disagree to do so. So they go back to the Writing Center. Basically, they get some more help. And this time they're at I think, a lot better email. So this email reads, Ms. Gutenberg, I'm having trouble coming up with a good topic for my final assignment. Could you please send me some examples of topics I could choose to write? Thank you, Bill. So this email route, I think we can all see this is a lot. The formatting's a lot better. It has a nice greeting, says the name, says what they're having trouble with on the essay. It's not just I'm having trouble with the essay. This is now I'm having trouble coming up with a good topic for the essay. A lot better. Could you please send some examples of topics? Now, that's the thing that I look at and I'm thinking, why didn't he just Google essay topics? He could have done that and saved himself a lot of trouble. But someone who writes an email like this probably is not going to be Googling any essay topics. Let's be realistic here. Of course, I'm kidding about that. But yeah, that's pretty much the whole story here. I also find it kind of funny that this is from a Writing Center that put this out. The guy's coming back and forth to the Writing Center to write an email. But why didn't the Writing Center help him out with his essay? I kind of find that funny as well. So yeah, I believe we have a Writing Center of some sort at the university. I don't know the details of it. I don't know how they're functioning right now either. But the good news is that you probably won't be doing an essay in this class anyway, unless you miss an exam. And, you don't do it. Oh, that's another thing I forgot to mention. We'll go back to the syllabus and schedule later. But basically, I have in there that if you miss an exam, so you have a 24-hour window to take each exam. If you don't take it during that window, then you will you'll have the option to either replace it with the final, if it's not the final, or you can also write an essay. I think I make it pretty clear in the syllabus that's not the one I'd recommend doing, but you can. I grade essays. I wouldn't say, I think it's very fair, but it's certainly also pretty strict. I'm just being realistic. So I'd recommend you don't do that. Certainly, and I also don't just give you 24 hours. It's technically a 26-hour window. I open it up at 11 a.m. or 11 p.m. the day before, and I close it at 1 a.m. the day after. So just to make sure that you all have enough time, but it's never been an issue before. On the final, I had a section of 210 people, and every single one of them took the final exam on their correct day. So that was impressive to me. Of course, it wasn't just a day then; it was also the week. So they had the week-long period, but still, that many people taking it all, I was impressed with that. So let's talk a little bit more about emails. The main thing with an email, you start off like this, had in this decent example of an email. You want to have a greeting. You want to say something like good morning, good afternoon, hello, hi, something like that. Something to kind of start the email off with a good note. And, once you're done with the email, always have some sort of closing. You could use something like thank you, thanks, respectfully, sincerely, have a great day. Just something like that. Something simple and something that kind of, is professional. I tend to use the respectfully and formal emails that I'm sending. And, let's face it, if I'm not sending a formal email, I'll just probably use my initials. So that's kind of how I handle that. But, you can certainly handle it however you see most appropriate. So, kind of along the lines of email etiquette, it's important to have your emails not be too long. I like to say 6 sentences or less. And if it can't be said in 6 sentences or less, you always have lots of other options. You could maybe send an attachment. Maybe you have a very, very long new policy or something. Maybe you want to send a memo. And you say, please see the attached memo about whatever it's about. and then they can open up the memo and read it that way. That's good to do. But certainly some sort of attachment, there's no maximum minimum length for an attachment. You could send a 20-page attachment. You could send a 5,000-page attachment. It's questionable if someone would read a 5,000-page attachment, but you can certainly send it. There's nothing stopping you from sending a 5,000-page attachment. So you could also, you want to make sure that on your subject line, it's going to be no more than 6 words or so. You could probably go up to 7. But the main thing with an email is that the entire thing, everything you do inside the email should be both clear and it should be concise. So if you're sending something, it should be very clear what you're trying to say. Whatever the information you're wanting back should be very clear. But it should also not be excessive. So, if you're sending an email, you don't want to be overly wordy. You don't want to have lots of information. You just want to make sure that it covers every single topic that you need to cover. So there could certainly be some cases in which you may cover too much. And if you're covering too much, either cut back some of the information or send an attachment. Like, for example, I sent off the email earlier this morning about, some stuff inside of class, when we're going to meet and stuff like that. I didn't send you the whole syllabus. I did send the syllabus, but I sent it as attachment. I didn't try to cram it all inside the email body. And having said that, the syllabus is a little bit long, to be honest. But it's usually a lot shorter than that. Keep in mind the last page of that is stuff I have to have in it. A lot of the other information in there is just to kind of make it easier to find information. So I apologize, it is a little on the long end there. But speaking of emails, you always want to make sure that you're writing in a tone that's very professional. If you're sending a professional email, at least. So sending an email to a boss, to a colleague, you want to make sure it's professional. If you're sending an email to your friend, probably don't have to worry about that. But it's talking about professional communications. It should be in a professional nature. You always want to be very polite inside of an email. You don't ever want to be rude, condescending. If you're upset, take a step back from it. Maybe call them up on the phone and discuss it. You can certainly have a lot more rich communication with not using email. And another thing with email is that it's not necessarily a bad thing to be firm within an email. So, for example, let's say that you're an employer and you're sending out an email about a deadline, and you say, here's some information about this deadline. There will be consequences if you're late. That could be okay. You might even say what the consequences are. Whatever you'd have is the consequences. But you don't want to be rude either. So you want to balance those two things. It's okay to be firm. Let's say you're sending an email to a contractor and you say, here are the penalties for late, as we discussed in the contract, and then you say maybe 2% of the overall contract is deducted per day that you're late. Something like that. That's perfectly fine to do. But you don't want to be rude about it. And, also, you'd want to make sure that you keep in mind that anything you send via email could be recorded forever. It's not always going to be recorded forever, but it's going to be recorded for a very long time. So, there could be some cases in which maybe you had a little bit too much to drink or whatever else you do. Might not be the best time to send an email because that could get you in a lot of trouble down the road. So you want to make sure that, you kind of take a moment to reflect on what you're sending via email and not send anything you could regret later on. So the subject, like I say, just like the body, the subject needs to be very informative. It needs to tell what will be, talked about inside the email. So if I'm sending out an email, I'm probably going to put the class name because you could be taking multiple classes. You're not necessarily taking multiple classes, but it's very possible that you're taking multiple classes right now. So I always put the class name in the subject. So in my case, it's going to be BIS 3233. Now, let me get off on a quick little tangent here and tell you guys a funny story. Probably shouldn't tell this, but it's pretty funny, so I'm going to tell it. So you guys know inside of Teams, inside of this particular team, it has the icon that's a little graph. Here's a funny story. So originally, it had, like the initials for the class. So, it's BIS 3233. So what it did was it took the first and the last letter of BIS, and that's what it had as the little graphic for the class, kind of like the icon or whatever. And I definitely changed that. That's not reflective of what the class is at all. So I thought that was pretty funny. Anyway, back to this. So you definitely want to make sure that your subject is informative and it tells people what the email will be about. It's okay to be a little bit more wordy on a subject than maybe you're used to. So if you're sending an email to someone, you wouldn't just say grades. You would say something else about the grades. You would say final exam grade or something like that, or grading formula question, something like that. I got in trouble with this morning. Actually, I sent an email to one of my colleagues about some changes that are happening in certain states about retirement, and what I said was that some states are forcing retirement. And what I should have said was some states are forcing retirement savings. This is an older colleague, and he got a little concerned at first. He told me I was really concerned when you sent that to me. And I said, well, I didn't mean it like that. I meant to say, it's about they're forcing the people to save for retirement. Well, they're not even forcing it. It's semi-mandate. But that's another story. I just thought that was kind of funny. And it's why this is important. You want to be very informative. So, I have on here less than 8 words. You could also do less than 6. You don't want to have a whole story inside the subject. I have seen emails where the entire message is the subject, and that's not good. There's some other tips as well. A lot of times when you're doing an email, you have something that you ultimately want. Maybe you're sending an email to an employer, and ultimately you want them to grant you some time off. So, sorry about that, guys. So what you could do to kind of help out with this is you could put the action or request that you want at the end of the body. So if you're writing out an email or something, you could certainly have, dear employer, I'd like to take this time off. And then at the end, you'd put something like, please let me know if this is okay, or something like that. And you put that above the salutation of the signature, but you put that below most of the rest of the body. That's just a kind of way to help organize and kind of aid people in reading your emails, making sure that they're able to quickly and concisely, figure out what you're trying to get them to do, basically. Certainly, you want to use proper spelling and grammar, as Kyle talked about. It's a very important thing to do. It makes you look extremely unprofessional if you don't use proper grammar or spelling. If I'm sending out an email to one person, maybe I don't read over it, 3 or 4 times. But if I'm sending an email out to a lecture section, you better believe I read through it, a good 3 or 4 times before I send it out. Another thing with email, don't expect an immediate response. Some people, they send an email, and I don't think this is most people. There are some people who, have kind of unrealistic expectations for email. They think of it more like a text message, and even with a text message, I'd say it's still unrealistic for that. But that's another story. Where, they expect you to respond immediately. And in reality, I don't think you should be responding immediately to email. I think you should be waiting at least, 30 minutes or an hour or so before you even look at it. That's my opinion. I do try to respond within a day. I think that makes the most logical sense if you send me an email. In fact, quick note about that. I mentioned that if I make a mistake, I'll give you a bonus point. I'll also give you a bonus point if you send me an email and I don't respond within a day. Now, keep in mind, that does only apply if you send it from a university account, because you could send it from a non-university account, and I may not look at it as carefully, but I think that's pretty fair. So do let me know if I send you an email, and that's one business day, of course. If you email me on Sunday, might wait till Monday to look at it too closely. But certainly within one business day, you will get a response. I've only ever done that a couple times where I've missed an email, and I apologize to the person. I said, hey, let me make it right. I'll give you a bonus point. I think they're pretty happy with that. So yeah, but certainly, there's an expectation where you could be too on top of your email, and there's also an expectation where you could be not on top of it enough. So if you're going days without answering email, that's not good. But if you're going, seconds where you are answering email, that's also not good. That's not very productive. So what I do is I check it a couple times a day. I check it maybe in the morning when I get up or so, maybe around lunch, and then maybe at the end of the day. And I think that kind of helps me stay productive. Find what works for you, of course. I'm not saying that you have to do what I do, but that's just kind of how I handle things. Let me know if you have any tips that work, for you. I know there's some software out there to kind of not even show you that you received emails until a certain time. I don't really like that. I just say don't open it. Don't have notifications enabled. I certainly don't get my university email on my cell phone because, like I said, I'm at my computer. Plenty. So that's kind of how I do it. But most importantly, I think that it's best. This is really my favorite thing about an email. Is if you separate out the email wherever possible. So let's say you have a list of things you want. Use bullet points. Use a numbered list, especially if it's things in order. A numbered list makes a ton of sense. Just really helps in organizing it, and it helps in reading it and referencing information later. You don't always have to use paragraphs. It's certainly fine to use bullet points. I prefer bullet points in a lot of cases. So I said we're going to talk about when to send an email. We're also going to talk about when not to send an email. There's a lot of cases in which an email does not make sense. So first of all, an email is something that's going to be sent, in most cases, over a non-secured communications protocol. And it's not going to be encrypted. So anyone could intercept it, and they could pretty much get exactly what you're telling them. So if there's any concerns about security, don't send an email. Send it via other means, probably some sort of encrypted transmission. There's tons of options for that. It's pretty common nowadays. And also, if there's ever a case in which it would not be a warm enough way to do it. Anyone ever watch IT Crowd? There's an episode of IT Crowd where Moss, one of the technicians, he actually is sending an email. There's a fire inside the office. And he sends an email to the fire department to get them to come put out the fire, which I thought was really fun. It's a funny scene. I'm not saying watch the whole episode of IT Crowd, but certainly that's a good scene. That's not necessarily a case in which it's a sensitive issue, but that's it's just not timely. Like I say, goes back to this previous point here. Don't expect an immediate response. If your building's on fire, call emergency services immediately. That's an important thing to do. Vacate and get out whatever you can, of course, but call emergency services. I talked about don't send an email if you're impaired either. That's not a good thing to do. Well, I never finished talking about niceness or warmness. I got a little sidetracked. I apologize. So there's certain topics in life that are bound to come up from time to time that, you don't want to inform people via email. And I'm going to get a little serious for a minute. Like, imagine if you were informing someone that there was an accident and that there could be some maybe some harm or something like that. You don't want to send an email. You want to, at minimum, call the people, if not visit them. It's just not really a warm enough communication to kind of communicate in that way. So that's kind of what I'll say about that. Just use your common sense, basically. Also, of course, don't ever send anything via email that could be used against you, that could incriminate you. Of course, don't commit any crime. But if you're going to commit a crime, you don't want to talk about it via email. Email is probably the worst way. It's definitely one of the worst ways, I would say, to discuss criminal activities. Like I said, I'm not going to go into details about what you should use, but don't use email. I'll say that. Here's an example of a good email. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but basically it's just a pretty decent email. They've got a pretty good subject line. They don't just say thank you. They say thank you for the interview, and then they kind of thank them for the interview. They talk about what they liked. They have a nice signature here. Sorry, guys. So it's just a decent email. They have, information. Their signature is not too long. It's only about, 3 or 4 lines. That's not too long. Has their contact information you need. I don't like that they have their email inside their signature. I think that's kind of silly. You don't need to have your email in your signature. My signature, I don't even use one. I either just use my name or my initials. It's good enough for me. Because, most people who are emailing me, they know where to find me. It's not a very difficult thing to do. If they're emailing, they already have my contact information. If they're, someone, it doesn't matter who they are. Email is probably the best way to contact me. So you get what I'm saying there. Just have information they can contact you if they need it. But it can be different for different people. There's certainly some industries that don't just rely on email for communication. So, there could be cases in which that's not the best thing to do. But, just have whatever information you need. I guess I could put my office location on there, but I'm not even sure where my office is at this moment, so I'm not going to do that for now. That's another story. Here's an okay example. They forgot to attach the attachment. They got a kind of a long signature here, but it's decent overall. I mean, they don't have a subject or anything, but yeah, it could be better, could be worse. Here's a bad email. It's kind of a spam email. It's extremely long. No one's going to read this. It's just not anything that, is going to be very appealing to people. They're sending it to basically all their clients. It'd just be kind of spammy. This one's kind of funny right here. I will kind of go through this a little bit. Basically, what's happening is, the people are going back and forth, and he says, where is it? He's basically saying, any color you can add to your application will be appreciated. So I don't know if you guys could tell from the PowerPoint. I don't know how large it is on your screen, but he basically takes the whole thing and he adds like a rainbow worth of colors to his thing. Like each sentence is a different color. I think that's really humorous. And the person he's emailing responds back and says, please explain your rationale for the rainbow. And he said, I wanted the most important details of the message to stand out. I also misunderstood what you said about adding color to the message. So I think that's pretty humorous. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But it's more funny than it could be with email. This is, of course, a phishing email. You don't want to mess with these. Obviously, you're not going to get, what is this, $12 billion or anything. You're not going to get that. Let's just be realistic here. They're also talking about $2 billion. I mean, come on, Actually, that's millions. My bad. I was looking at that wrong. But you see the point. So, yeah, I mean, basically, in conclusion, you just want to make sure that you have a helpful subject, that you have a good greeting, you have a good closing. You could also use the term salutation if you want. Doesn't really matter. You want to make sure that you're both concise and that you're also, covering everything you need to, and that it's very clear email overall. And you always want to make sure it's very polite and professional. Okay, any questions? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end the recording. Let me try to figure out how to end recording.